now there's a dog barking. Cool. Cool. All right. Deja, welcome to Menopause. Just kidding. Hello, Internet. Welcome to the Fire and Fiber podcast. I'm Audrey. I'm an Anishinaabe mother. I am a knitter. I work in the healthcare field, a crafter, an advocate, social activist, and I'm coming to you from my home in what is now known as Southwestern Ontario on the Haldeman Tract. This is my podcast where I talk about knitting, what I'm working on, sprinkled in a little bit of politics and social activism, it seems like. So I'm going to try to do something different today. I am going to do a bit of a knit and chat. We're going to talk about some of my WIPs, things that I've finished. There are a few. It's a big deal. And also some other things going on. And I actually wanted to spend today talking about reproductive health. I am going through it in a big way. And the thing that I've realized is that this is even less talked about than a lot of other issues that impact women. And so, yeah, I thought I'd just come on and chitty chat about my experience. So I think I'm going to start with my finished objects because I do have a few, and finished objects is used very loosely. I also just want to point out I am sweating my butt off. I was getting ready and I was like, I'll do my hair. And I was like, I should do some makeup, make myself look really nice. And then I thought, you know what? Like, this is authentic. This is part of the women's health stuff that I have going on. So whatever. Also, just for clarity, when I say women's health, I mean any of our friends who have a uterus or other female reproductive organs. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I'm just being clear that it's all, when I talk about women today, it's related to the reproductive health issues that come with being biologically female. So I will sometimes intersperse women. I do try to use people with uterus or reproducing people or people giving birth or childbirthing people a lot. But if I slip up, please forgive me. So I do have a few objects that I have finished. The first being I did actually complete one of these socks for my husband. If you watched my spring knitting plans video, I talked about how I had this on the needles forever. I did finish one. I still have the other one to make it. I just cast it on. And this is just a basic vanilla sock that I've made a few modifications for. It was knit on 2.5 millimeter DPNs and a 9-inch circular, depending on what part I was at. And then I just grafted a basic toe. And this is made with Regia tweed. I don't remember the exact color name. I don't think this is a huge line, so I'm sure I could look it up and see exactly what the color name was. But these are just some nice, comfy wool socks. He is a landscaper in the summer. Well, he's a landscaper in the non-snow months, and he does snow removal in the snow months. So having warm socks is really important. While I was knitting, if you saw my knitting on vacation video, I had done one of these socks with a bit of the Regia tweed for the heel, toe, and cuff. And I did the body in Area 51's National Strawberry Day. So I completed that one on vacation. And I actually filmed a little mini on like how long it takes to knit a sock. I think it was like 11 hours, which I filmed mostly on travel day. And so I would be done, but I lost that yarn chicken. I still have a little bit to go on the toe, so I'm still trying to figure out a solution to that. But I mean, I cast it on and I did it, and it's almost done. So I'm this close to having a complete pair. I wanted to like pat myself on the back for that one. The other thing is, where is it? Like, oh golly, why can't I find it? So I have been working on my Come Back Again cardigan by Andrew and Maury. I did finish one of my sleeves. This is in Spin Cycle Versus in Sweet and Sour. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. And so I've started my second sleeve, just cast it on. It's not really much to write home about, but once I'm done that, I will be able to start on the body. So it's clipping along really nicely. It's a nice, easy pattern repeat, nice and simple, meditative, which is great. And I think that is all I have for, I don't want to say finished objects. I mean, I'm happy that like I got a sleeve done and a sock. It was like a big deal. So what I'm working on today, this I cast on, according to my knitting app, I cast this on December 1st. And I honestly knit like 3 rows and then left it. And for some reason, not some reason, because I'm trying to finish up my projects that I have on the go before casting on new ones, I wanted to work on this. So the color's not really, I thought that it's not showing up as true neon as it is. This is a neon green and not sort of yellowy, like it's looking like a highlighter yellow, and a neon pink. This is the Cheeky Checky Beanie from Ocean Knits. I did buy this pattern, I think, when it came out, which is probably why I cast it on and then neglected it. I mean, when I think back to December 1st, my husband was just going for surgery. December was a nightmare. It was Christmas time. I was trying to finish like teacher gifts and other gifts and things like that. So, and I just wasn't feeling super inspired by it. But I picked it back up, and if I'd been paying better attention today, I probably would have been done it. However, I did have to frog about 6 rows. I'm on my decreases and I had forgotten to switch the color. So I was just listening to a New to Me podcast that I thought was really interesting. And so I lost the plot a little bit, but I'm probably going to be working on this today. Before I get into that, I did want to show one thing. I really struggle with like unboxings or acquisitions or like showing off stash. That's not really, I don't really find that helpful and productive. I find it actually feeds into my uh, obsessive need to buy things. But I did want to show, I got this package, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and I actually haven't opened it. I was waiting to open it on camera. So I'm going to do that now. So I did, let me do the noisy cutting and then I'll talk. So back in June, I completed the Best Dressed Vest test knit by Designed by So-and-so. And one of the things I like about a test knit is that you're in a group chat with all these other knitters and you get to see all these other projects and things like that. And I realized that one of the people in the group was actually someone who I already followed. I think I had favorited one of her yarns on Etsy. And so I was already really into it. And so I actually reached out to her about ordering some yarn because I'd had it, again, on my favorites forever. I was obsessed with it. So I don't know how well the color is going to show up. Oh my gosh. It is coming off very minty. It's not. It's more of a, like I'll put a photo in after. It's very much like a neon green chartreuse. And so this is from Florange Apparel. She does have a podcast here on YouTube. She's uploaded in a while, but I'm going to tag her. Her name is Madison, and this is the DK, I think it's a superwash merino. Yeah, it's a 2-ply superwash, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this. Originally I was thinking cardigan, but I messed up my math. So I'm going to be doing a shirt, a top of some sort, like a t-shirt. This is just, I wish I could get the color to like appear properly. It's so, like if you're a neon person, if you're a neon pastel person, like I am, if you love brights, this is just like, I just want to like gobble it up. So thank you so much, Madison. I'm super excited about this. Yeah, her turnaround time was really quick from when I ordered. Yeah, it's great. So she's a local dyer. She's from Sarnia, Ontario, which, you know, I won't hold against her. It's very rich that I say that because like I also live in a crummy small town. And I think that's like a uniquely, maybe not uniquely Ontario, but I think it's like a small town thing where you talk crap about other people's small towns. Anyway, so forgive me. This is one of my thrift acquisitions I'm really excited about. I've had this for quite a while. This is an Anthropologie like mug with like the gold leaf and everything. I found this at the thrift store many months ago and I was very excited. I don't know if they make these anymore still, but it's H for my last name, which is Hill. And it makes me happy when I look at it. Okay, so I think that's all I have for works in progress, finished objects. I did want to do a bit of shameless self-promotion only because this came out after a different episode a couple weeks ago. So if you follow me, you know that I've made these World's Okayest Knitter stickers. I was also commissioned, I guess, to make a World's Okayest Crocheter sticker. So these, I don't know if I have the crochet one up on my online yet on my platforms, but I will. If you're a sticker person, if you want to support me, if not, that's cool too. I love a good funny sticker. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have some more magic bean juice. And then I think we can get into it. If I look comfortable right now, do not be deceived. I'm on a rolling stool, like one of those like saddle shaped ones that supports your back and your bum. But anyways, so I wanted to talk today about, I love talking about everything, but I wanted to talk today about women's reproductive health. I have been on a journey. If you have been on here, you know that I've gone for a couple different surgeries. I did have each of my wrists. I had like a procedure on each for carpal tunnel syndrome. Not my wrists, my hands, but it used to be a wrist surgery. And so I wanted to also talk about another thing that I had going on, which is that I had a laparoscopic bilateral hysterectomy at the end of May, which I will get into. Okay. So just a little bit of background because, you say hysterectomy and that is a very big word and it absolutely is. So I was someone I started menstruation really early. I think I was like 8 or 9 when I got my first period, which was, traumatizing when you're in elementary school. They don't have, at least my school didn't have like the garbage cans and inside the actual stall to throw away period products. And so that was really, really weird. But anyways, I developed super early. it was a whole thing. Anyways, so going through my life, like my periods were pretty severe, in a, what I think is like a pretty misguided, attempt to sort of support me. My mom actually advocated for me to go on birth control. When I was 16, I was not sexually active, but hormonal birth control to try and control what she called like, my like mood swings. I was misdiagnosed with a whole bunch of mental health issues over the course of my adolescence and adult life. And I mean, hindsight's 2020. You don't know what you don't know. We're all just trying to do our best. But anyways, so I was on hormonal birth control, I think from the age of 16 to 24. Various kinds. I had tried the Depo-Provera shot, which made me absolutely bananas crazy, and I went off of it. And at about 24, 25 maybe, I decided I was done with birth control. I was just going to, use alternate methods, but I was done with hormonal birth control is what I should say. Not birth control in general, hormonal birth control. And so I really wanted to be done with it. I didn't like the side effects. I was worried about the long-term impact and things like that. And so I was so really fortunate. My cycles were incredibly regular. Like they were, you could set your watch. Yeah, like truly, like Friday morning, 5 a.m., I'd wake up with my period. I'd be done by Sunday afternoon. Very easy, very chill, not a whole lot of symptoms, other than like the very physical, obvious symptom, bleeding. My body was shutting. And so even after, I didn't have a lot of issues. I got married when I was 25, and we started to try to have a family. And I got pregnant relatively quickly. I did have a early miscarriage before I got pregnant with my son, but there was no indication that like anything was um, out of the ordinary with my reproductive cycle, with my cycle in general. Like I was actually kind of like textbook, you know what I mean? Like very, very regular, whatever. Ovulated at the same time every month, knew when I was ovulating, things like that. And because I'd been off birth control, I was using, like, I really researched into natural family planning. So that is how I was preventing pregnancy. We decided to start trying for a family. So after I'd had my miscarriage, had decided that I wasn't going to, we weren't going to try and conceive for a while because I was traumatized. Again, that was another thing that people don't talk about in my life was miscarriage, and I didn't know how common it was, things like that. A lot of these sort of like myths around it were dispelled as I learned more things. But anyways, I actually found out a month later that I was pregnant again. Totally not planned. Pregnancy, like that was just really weird. Had a very complicated pregnancy. Had my son. Whatever. Not going to dive into that one. And so I was encouraged by my doctor to go on an IUD right after I'd given birth. Basically, I think I want to say like my 3-month follow up, he had encouraged me to get an IUD, inserted it. I did not do well on it. I had blinding migraines. It was just not good. And so I went back probably within a month or two and kindly requested that he take it out. And I mean, he tried to sort of say, oh, well, it's your body, blah, 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 whatever. No. Backing up to hormones, I should also say that I have been a regular migraine sufferer since I was a teenager. Tons of doctors were like, no, it's not hormonal, it's not hormonal, it's not hormonal, whatever. The way I knew I was pregnant every single time I've been pregnant is I would miss my premenstrual migraine. So I would get a migraine like 2 to 3 days before my period every time. So that's how I knew I was pregnant before even I was able to take a test. I was like, oh, I'm pregnant for sure. And, then the symptoms would start and whatever. My second pregnancy was a breeze. Anyways, so I got off the IUD and just did my best to try to help my body level out. I was still trying to breastfeed, but I did have a period and I was ovulating because I wasn't exclusively breastfeeding and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, so like I said, we just continued to utilize natural family planning. I tracked my ovulation. I had one of those little temperature thermometers that you put in your mouth. Totally fine. When we did decide that we wanted to have another child, very easy, got pregnant, probably the first try. Because my body was very, like, I was able to very easily recognize the symptoms that my body was giving me and track everything. And I was like, whatever, self-aware. Anyways, had my daughter, no problem. We had decided that 2 was enough. And so when I had my daughter, I had a conversation with my OB during my pregnancy about having my tubes removed, which she was totally in favor of. And I had a different OB with my second pregnancy because I had a really bad experience at the hospital that I gave birth out with my son. And so I actually went to a different city and had found an OB in the city one in the over. And she's a godsend. Like, she actually has impacted my life, I think, so much more than she could realize. I always joke that, like, in real life, like, if she was my doctor, I'd totally be friends with her. Funny story. I actually work alongside her now. We both work for the same hospital. Anyways, so she was amazing and she did not deliver my daughter. I was a different OB who ended up doing my C-section. And I remember laying there, they were about to close me up. And I was like, wait, what about my tubes? And the doctor then proceeded to argue with me and talk to my husband and be like, are you sure? Are you sure about this? Because, um, the whole adage is I've had a number of friends who said that they wanted to get their tubes tied and their doctors, even today, like within the last year, like, no, you have to be 35, you have to be married, you have to have 2 kids, blah, blah, blah. You have to be sure, right? Men in reproductive health. Anyways, so I shouldn't say men in reproductive health. I should say if you don't have a uterus, I don't think you have very much business treating people with uteruses and treating the uterus in general. Anyways, I finally agreed, took my tubes out, whatever. And then I didn't have a period for probably another 9 months because I was exclusively breastfeeding. And when I did wean and I got my period a month later, I thought I was dying the first time. I actually almost went to the hospital. It was so severe. It was so heavy. I was like, all right, this makes sense. Between pregnancy and breastfeeding, like I haven't had a period in almost 2 years. This is just my body cleaning itself out. And it didn't slow down. And so, whereas before I had these really, really sort of enviable, very easy, breezy periods, 2.5 days, no cramps, just a bit of bleeding, whatever. I felt like I was dying. So I would regularly vomit. I had a full 7-day cycle. It's very, 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 very heavy. I mean, I'm already someone who struggles with anemia. And especially during my pregnancy, I had really, really severe anemia with both my pregnancies. And so that was a lot. I felt like garbage, diarrhea, bloating. I used to bloat so heavy that I'd call it my 5-monther because like I literally looked like I was pregnant. I would have this like hard belly. Again, migraines, acne, all the things, lower back pain, cramps, just every possible symptom you could imagine I had. And I thought, okay, like it's going to be a while, just need to let my body do its thing. Fast forward to 6 years later, and I'd still been going through it at my previous, so I want to say probably about 5 years in, I had been at my previous job and I had bled through like a cup, period underwear, and all within an hour. Like it wasn't uncommon for me to have to go and buy new pants and buy new underwear at work. I had said to my doctor, like, if I could just live in a diaper for the first couple of days, that would honestly be easier. I looked through everything. I was passing clots that were, and again, like, sorry if this is TMI. I don't know, maybe YouTube will censor me. I was passing clots that I would, because I worked in a health center with medical professionals. I'd be like, hey, so and so, at what point is a clot concerning, like size? And my little nurse I worked with said, if you have to ask me that, Audrey, you and I both know you need to go to the hospital. Like, no, it's fine. Anyways, it just wasn't slowing down. And so it was still like a full 7 days, heavy start to finish. I felt like I could just never get on top of it. Like I was so depleted and so exhausted. My joints hurt. I have issues with inflammation. And so during that time, like I would, I'd be at work and I'd have to like sit down because my knees were just hurting, my back was hurting, just everything. I felt like I was hit by a truck all the time. And, I took iron supplements, like I did all the things, I couldn't get on top of it. And on top of that, my ovulation got really, really severe. So when I was ovulating, which is halfway through my 28-day cycle, I would have all of the symptoms of a period with the exception of bleeding. And so I just had a handful of days a month where I didn't feel like I was like dying, like I felt horrible. And so, yeah, about 5 years postpartum, I finally called my OB's office and said, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't, I'm going to die. I feel like I'm going to die. It was so depressing, constantly having migraines and constantly feeling like garbage. I was just like, I need to do something. And so I went in for an appointment and my OB, was very clear about these are the options. And this is the first time in my life I've had a medical doctor. I should back up and say that it wasn't until about 3 years ago, my neurologist finally said, like, oh, yes, your migraines are absolutely hormonal. Migraines absolutely can be hormonal. And this was a man saying this. I had so many doctors being like, no, it has nothing to do with your cycle. Wow, like hysterical woman, right? And so my OB had said, like, here's all the options. We can try tranexamic acid, we can try hormonal birth control, we can try an ablation. She's like, we can do a hysterectomy. And I kind of was like, what? I remember thinking like, oh, that's an option. She's like, yeah. All my patients are happy with it who choose it. Like, there's no complaints. And I found that really strange because, again, for my entire reproductive life, let's call it, I had sort of felt like I had to argue my case and argue and stand up for myself around my symptoms and my suffering. Like, I kind of had to prove it. And again, I had lots of male doctors who'd be like, well, blah, blah, blah. And it was like I was having some other person determine when my suffering was enough, how much, like if I had suffered enough and when enough was enough, which is, I mean, I think a lot of, I'm not anti-doctors and I'm not anti-medicine, but I do think a lot of them really have a God complex. And especially again, I have male doctors be like, oh, well, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but it's not fine. And I think as women, again, I'm saying the word women, I'm not trying to exclude, but I think as women and girls, we are encouraged from birth, very young age, to meet a whole bunch of metrics. And like we have to fit this mold. And part of that mold is enduring. And women are designed to endure. Well, not designed, we're encouraged to endure. We are, you talk to any woman or any birthing person about their birth experience, or you talk to a group of them, and at least one will sort of talk about their hard experience. And it's like a badge of honor that we've all been encouraged to wear. And then someone else will talk about their experience, and it's even more horrific. And they're like, oh my gosh. And you get this like reverence and this like respect from people, especially if you give birth unmedicated, or it's a really long time, or you have a big baby, or like all these things, right? And it's almost like if you don't have that, you feel less than, right? Like your experience is diminished or whatever. It's this weird thing. And I think as a society, it's encouraged because we as women are encouraged to accept less. We're encouraged to suffer, we're encouraged to just endure. I mean, I can even go back thinking about like, people talk about like, oh, this person gave birth and then she's back at work in a week. Like look at the fact that there's no maternity leave in the States, right? Like women go back to work 2 weeks after you're giving birth, 6 weeks after. I was still bleeding. My body was still held together by like steri strips at that point. Everything's leaking, everything's swollen, everything's bleeding. And it's like, but you just have to do it. You look at war times, right? All the men went off to war and then the women are home and they're taking care of the kids and they're running the business or they're working and they're doing all these things. And then they're expected to endure. And it's like this, it's a badge of honor, right? It's a way to validate. Like the more you've endured and the more you've suffered, the more of a woman you are because you dealt with all these things, right? And people often joke like if men had periods, like we wouldn't have to deal with half of this stuff. Anyways, it's just like a very interesting commentary on society that I've noticed that like women are expected to endure. And the same thing with menopause. Women are just, it's like it's accepted that we just have to have like all these really, really hard stages of life, right? Like getting your period and menstruating, that's a hard stage of life. Giving birth, hard stage of life. Breastfeeding, if you choose to do that, difficult, right? Like the childbearing years, hard stage of life. And then you get like a little bit of a break reproductively, not actually a break because women don't get breaks. But anyways, you get this like break, your body like settles down for a little bit, and then menopause hits. And then you have to endure and endure and endure. And we all have like an auntie or someone who's talked openly about their hot flashes, their night sweats, their moodiness, their years, like years of suffering. And it's just accepted. And again, they're like kind of like applauded, right? Anyways, so that was my experience leading up to my decision. And to be honest, I didn't really have a lot of education around a hysterectomy. I mean, I knew what it was from like when I think my grandmother had one, or like back in the day, right? It was like major surgery. But my doctor was like, no, laparoscopic, it's super easy. Recovery is great, no worries. And it was. So backtracking. In talking to my OB, I was like, I'll think about it. I tried the tranexamic acid, which was supposed to, you take it during your period and it's supposed to lighten your bleeding. I didn't find it effective. And then I thought, you know what? Okay, fine. I'm done with this. And so I called the office and I said, book me in. Like, yeah, let's do it. And so I had another appointment with my doctor, signed all my paperwork, and then kind of went on my way because I was going to have to wait. And we had agreed that we wouldn't take out my ovaries because that would put me into menopause, early menopause. Fine. And so I waited about a year because my surgery date came up about 9 months after my appointment, and I had just started a new job, wasn't comfortable. I kept delaying. And finally the hospital was like, either you have your surgery, you get off the wait list. Well, that makes perfect sense. All right. Because again, Ontario, publicly funded healthcare for the most part, because there actually are at least two tiers of healthcare in Ontario. There are. I'll get into that. Anyways, so I had my surgery. I didn't really give myself a lot of time to think about it. I had looked into recovery. I had sort of like made plans the best I could. Who was going to take care of my kids, driving them to school, things like that. And my surgery went pretty well. I did have a bunch of people asking me about it though. Like nurses would be like, "Oh, why are you getting this?" Like, "Oh, have you bleeding?" Like it was a weird thing. I was like, "Why are you asking me?" But anyways, surgery went well for the most part. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter how many times I told someone in pre-op, like, hey, I don't do well on opiates. Opiates make me vomit. Please don't give me opiates. I've had surgeries and this is what's happened every single time. Even in the OR, like, please don't give me opiates. They gave me fentanyl and hydromorphone. And I remember going under and tasting and going. So when I woke up in the post-operative area before I went back to day surgery, I was like being diapered and they were bringing over a portable x-ray machine because I apparently vomited while I was intubated. And they were like, "Oh, we need to make sure you didn't aspirate." How about we just start listening to people when they talk about their bodies and their medical history? But anyways, and then again, I was really pushed with opiates after. "Oh, you're going to need opiates." Even when I was getting my carpal tunnel surgeries, they're like, "Oh, we're going to write you a prescription." And I said, no. And people like lose their minds. I'm like, "No, I'm good." And and then I would have to justify in multiple instances, not just this one. I would have to justify why I wasn't taking opiates. Like, "Oh, just take the prescription just in case." Like, no, I don't need it. I don't want it. And fentanyl is the actual devil. And like, I've worked in harm reduction and I've lost quite a few family members to opiate overdose. So, no. Again, this is bringing it back. I'll bring it back. Um, this whole like badge of honor thing when we talk about giving birth, I would always be like, mm-mm. I survived 2 C-sections where my epidural didn't take on the left side either time. And I survived on Tylenol and Advil, so I'm good. And I didn't necessarily use that I used to use that as a badge of honor, honestly. But now I was just like, no, like I'm really good with, like, my body has a high pain tolerance. I know myself. If I feel like I really need some help, I'll ask for it, but like I'm good. And so post-op, I was really uncomfortable, really, I was in a lot of pain. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want opiates." They're like, "Well, no, just take, you need some pain relief, da 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 da." They tried a non-opiate, didn't work. And so I finally said, "Okay, fine." And I remember the doctor gave me fentanyl and hydromorphone through my IV. And I remember my body I felt it instantly in my body in like not a good way. Like I was like, my body was like weirdly like floaty and like jiggly and itchy, whatever. Didn't really have the pain, but I did start hysterically crying, just like sobbing, like the saddest little cry you've ever seen. And I could not articulate why I was upset other than you gave me drugs and I don't like them. Anyways, it was actually gas pain because when you have a laparoscopic operation, they like pump your belly up and then you don't always get the gas out. So, pain meds didn't touch the gas pain. All I had to do was they rolled me on my side, gave me a bunch of hot blankets, and I just had to fart it out over the next couple of days. And so, yeah, I got home, whatever. And I should preface this by saying in the past year, I had just started having perimenopausal symptoms, but I didn't recognize that that's what they were necessarily. I mean, I was having night sweats periodically. It was typically only when I was ovulating. I would wake up like belly button down, drenched in sweat and freezing because I had sweated so much and then it had cooled. And then I was like freezing, shaking, like I would panic because I was so cold. I was like, I'm going to die right now. Weirdest thing ever. But a lot of my symptoms, I wasn't really connecting them to perimenopause. So I went to, and again, so had my surgery, whatever, fine, took my time off work, a little bit, it's not really bad. Very, very easy recovery, cannot complain. Honestly, I'm just bored because I'm still about 4 weeks post-op. And so I still can't go to the gym. I'm not supposed to lift things. I was like, I just want to vacuum my house because I'm home and I'm recovering and I like just want to clean and like putter and do things. And so like actually forcing myself to rest was really challenging. And I think that's a trauma response, right? Like if I'm not productive, I'm not worthy or whatever. Anyway, I went, okay, yeah. So I was about 4 weeks post-op right now. And I had gone, so probably about 2 weeks ago, I went to see my naturopath, who also does my acupuncture. She's fantastic. I've been seeing her for, gosh, over 10 years, probably 12 years. So she's known me through many stages of my life. And so I was, we're catching up, like, "Oh, what's new?" I'm like, "Well, I had a hysterectomy, blah, 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 blah." And she was like, "Oh, that's great. I just got my certification to prescribe hormone replacement therapy." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so then I get this like whole ass education that I had not gotten and I also had not sought out, but either way, about, what it's like after a hysterectomy, even if your ovaries are still there, about hormonal shifts and the need for hormone replacement therapy and all that. I had heard from some people anecdotally, like, oh, even if they say you won't go into menopause, you will. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'm kind of already in perimenopause, but like, I don't really know what that means. I just know that like I'm having some symptoms. My periods are behaving differently, especially in the last year, but like, I don't really know what that means. And I don't have time to look it up because like life is super busy, whatever. Anyways, so I got this whole education from her about estrogen and progesterone and what happens when your body's still trying to produce your ovaries are producing estrogen, but there's nothing there to receive it. Like you don't have ovaries anymore to receive it and blah, 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 blah. And then I learned about the fact that women need estrogen for bone density. And, especially like that's why hormone replacement is so important because estrogen impacts your bone density. And as women get older, our bone density declines anyways and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my God, like what did I miss? Like what did I jump into? Right. And that's not to say that I regret my decision to have a surgery. Not at all. I felt great. But I was like, just kind of like embarrassed because I was like, I really should have done more research on this. But like, also, I didn't really know. And my mom, so I remember when my mom went through menopause. My mom, I always joke that I'm like, the day my mom turned 40, she went into full blown menopause. And I remember those years very clearly. And I remember, witnessing all the symptoms and just being like, my mom is batshit crazy. Like this woman has lost the plot. And that's all I knew about it, other than I knew she had been offered HRT, and I knew there was like a lot of concerns around it back then, and so she didn't do it. And so then again, this whole like tough badge of honor attitude, this like enduring attitude. I was like, well, my mom did it without HRT. I'll be fine. I need it. Rah, rah, rah. Turns out it's actually super important. And so I learned a lot more about what happens when, our bodies slow down and stop making estrogen and progesterone and things like that. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're really young to be getting a hysterectomy. I'm like, well, I'm 35. Like, yeah, that's super young. And I said, well, like I'm probably in perimenopause right now. My family, starts early and ends early. Like I have a cousin who's a little bit older than me who's been experiencing a lot of similar symptoms. It's like, everyone's body is different. Like your body doesn't have a calendar. Your body actually doesn't care whether it's too early or too late to do something. Like it actually doesn't care. And time's a social construct anyways. I ended up going back to my doctor about a week later. And I was like, because once I started talking about menopause symptoms, I realized I was actually having so many of them. And I was just in such denial or just like not paying attention, right? I think because I had gotten out of this phase of like, needing to monitor what's going on with my body because I was so invested in getting pregnant and then not getting pregnant. Like I was so committed that I kind of stopped paying attention once I felt like I was out of that stage. And so I realized after my hysterectomy, I was having night sweats every night. I was having the occasional hot flash. I've been having bladder issues for the last year and a half, 2 years probably. I mean, I'm always an emotional mental wreck because I have lots of stuff going on and crippling anxiety. I've been an insomniac most of my adult life. Having insomnia again didn't really occur to me. And then even after my surgery, I was like, well, napping during the day, so it's harder to sleep at night. And even in the past past probably a year, I've been getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like my body wakes up and then I have my time and I have my time to myself. And, like, of course I'm foggy. Life has been crazy lately and things like that. I really should just like be sponsored by Anthro. The way I'm holding this cup of cold black coffee. Anyways, so I, yeah, started putting all the pieces together and was like, holy cannoli, what am I doing? And, my naturopath hadn't pressured me. She was just like, I think we should probably start thinking about this in the next couple of years. And I was like, whatever. So I made an appointment. I went back with her a week later and I was like, you were actually right about everything. And so, yeah, I just started literally 2 days ago, taking estrogen and progesterone. I got like I got a very comprehensive rundown on the risks and delivery methods and what it does. And even the whole name, like hormone replacement therapy, I feel like it's kind of misleading. It's almost like she's like, it's not replacing your hormones. It's just kind of bringing your levels back up a little bit to help manage some of the symptoms and also some other things like I said, bone density, but also your sugar levels. It lowers your risk of colon cancer, things like that. Which, I mean, my grandmother had colon cancer and had to have like a very large operation. I remember when I was young. So like all these things, but did I learn any of this from any other medical practitioners in my life? No. I do want to take a bit of accountability where I'm like, oh, I probably should have, researched into that. And then I was like, why? I'm 35. It's not a big deal. I'm 35. These are symptoms that are mildly annoying, but you know, it's probably just perimenopause, which is, you know, normal, but I'm not on like full-blown menopause. So anyways, that is my reproductive journey story. So that's where I'm at now. Like I said, I've started on topical estrogen and an oral progesterone at night. I'm not expecting to see any improvement or any change in the first couple of weeks based on, you know, medication sometimes takes a bit to interact to show impact, and I'm on like very, very low doses because I'm probably like pretty early on in my journey. And she even explained to me that, you know, dosaging will change based on your needs, like it can fluctuate. Eventually it will lower as you know, your sort of menopausal time winds down. Yeah, it's like, if you didn't know this, it's at least a decade that you should be on hormone replacement therapy if you're going through the change, as we call it. That has been my eye-opening, enlightening bit. I feel like I should have said this at the beginning. I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not qualified to diagnose. I'm just talking about my personal experience. But again, I wish it was something that people talked about more. You know, when I was going through trying to get pregnant, like I have been on birth control for years, and I just blindly thought that like you just have sex and you get pregnant. I didn't realize that you only have like 2 or 3 days a month that you can get pregnant. I had like a very, very like I had a pretty sheltered upbringing. And so a lot of it was like, don't have sex, you'll get pregnant. Like, so I really, you know, believed that I was going to, that I could get pregnant at any time, right? And then when I decided I was ready to have a family, I felt very ripped off because I was like, what is this? Like, I have to plan this and I have to like try to figure this out. And like, this is zero fun. It takes all the fun out of making a baby when you're like, I'm ovulating, we gotta make a baby. You know what I mean? Like, there's no fun in that. And it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable with, you know, the person that you're with. Anyways, so I felt like I had a bit more education following those experiences on reproductive health and women's bodies and cycles and everything like that. And then I guess because society has told us that, like, you know, menopause is for old women, I was like, I got time to figure that out. Turns out I don't. So now I am on this super fun learning journey. I feel like a little bit too late, maybe not. But I'm on this journey now of being like, what does this look like? How is this going to impact my life? How is this impacting, you know, a lot more? It impacts a lot more than I thought it would. So that is still kind of a trip to me. But I was thinking this week, like, what do I want to talk about? Um, you know, I've sort of shifted my posting schedule, like give myself um time to record over the weekend and then edit and things like that. But yeah, just so interesting trying to it's been so wild trying to figure out like, what does all this mean? What is this? What is this? Is this, you know, am I warm because I'm on SSRIs and I am someone who stress sweats? Like when I get nervous or upset, I break it, like I sweat. I'm sweaty all the time. Like I'm a large bodied person. You know, I'm full bodied. Anyways, so I was like, oh, it's so easy to like gaslight myself and be like, oh, I'm not experiencing X, Y, or Z. It's just this. It's just this. I'm not sleeping because I'm stressed out, or, you know, the hot flashes or the night sweats or whatever, or, you know, my bladder issues are so annoying. I was like, wow, I've had 2 9-pound babies. Like, of course my bladder is like not as strong as it used to be, right? And I really just kind of have been had my head in the sand, intentionally like not wanting to process it, not wanting to be aware. I think also too, like my partner had gone through a lot of medical stuff back in the winter and I was really, really tapped out. I work in a medical setting. I just didn't want to do medical body talk. Like even the fact that like looking at my hair, I've been growing out my gray hair for like 2 years now. Like I'm going gray. I've been going gray since my early 20s. But the fact that I didn't equate that with like the aging process, just I really gaslit myself really well. I feel hoodwinked and bamboozled by society, but also by myself. I definitely need to stop beating myself up over it. But anyways, that's my ramble. It's like, oh God, I'm like 48 minutes. This is gonna be my longest episode. How weird. It's just, you know, just because I love talking about myself. Also, I just want to point out my dress. I don't know if you can really see it that well. I love these like Old Navy, the sweat. See, hoop sweat. This is real life, folks. This is real life. Anyways, this is one of those Old Navy like ribbed t-shirt, not ribbed, like tank top dress sort of things. I did not get it at Old Navy because their prices are bananas. I thrifted it. Still not a great price, but I love anything remotely leopardy looking. So I'm still jazzed about that. Anyways, I think that's all I have for today. Thank you if you have stuck with me through this very, very long, rambling, nonsensical ramble. I hope everyone is staying cool, especially after this heat wave we've endured the past week. Climate change is real and it sure does suck. And yeah, I hope everyone has time this weekend. If you live in Canada, you know it's kind of a weird long weekend because Canada Day is on Tuesday. I don't celebrate Canada Day as an Indigenous person. I have to work Monday and then randomly have Tuesday off. So it's just a Tuesday off work. But anyways, I hope whatever you choose to do, you do it safely, you do it with the people you love. And find me, well, I guess I should put my plug in about finding me on socials. I'm Audrey Hill on Ravelry, Fire and Fiber Makes on Instagram, and fireandfibermakes.com. Anyways, I hope you have the best week ever. Happy knitting and stay safe. Peace.